things you'd like to add during the session, but keep all questions in the Q&A box. If you have any technical difficulties, we also ask that you post those in the chat session so someone from our team can help you with that if possible. If you'd like to chat all the panelists, you're able to chat panelists only, or you can chat to all attendees. So you want to be mindful of that when you're posting something as to who you'd like it to go to. This webinar is recorded, so it will be available for replay as well. If you get disconnected, please be patient and try to reconnect because we'd love to have you back barring any technical difficulties. Thank you all again for your attendance and support of this Dallas-Fort Worth NAAIA event in conjunction with the Dallas CPCU. And I'll turn it over to Tiara Morris to handle the rest of the event. Thank you.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiara Morris, and I am the president of the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of the National African American Insurance Association.
Yes, welcome. And my name is Tony LaRocca, and I serve as the Dallas CPCU Society chapter president. And welcome to our first inaugural event celebrating Black History Month and Insurance Careers Month. And on behalf of the Dallas CPCU chapter, we are very excited to be a part of this discussion today.
For those of you unfamiliar with NAAIA, the National African American Insurance Association was organized to create a network among people of color and others employed in or affiliated with the insurance industry. NAAIA is dedicated to empowering African American insurance professionals currently in the industry, as well as celebrating their accomplishments. NAAIA is also committing to attracting talented individuals to the insurance industry. Through our work and affiliation with other organizations such as the CPCU Society, we are dedicated to increasing the awareness of opportunities and attractiveness of careers in the insurance industry.
For those of you unfamiliar with the CPCU Society, we have more than 120 chapters in the United States, Bermuda, Europe, Japan, and Korea. And our mission is to provide knowledge and leadership opportunities for a global community of risk and insurance professionals in order to advance the industry and benefit those they serve while adhering to the highest ethical standards. At the CPCU Society, we are a group of go-getters, always looking for ways to get better, learn from each other, grow as leaders, do better for their customers, and give back to the industry. This collaboration today is very important to the CPCU Society and the Dallas chapter. And I'm thankful to everyone with NAAIA and CPCU who worked hard to make this happen. This collaboration is also important to me personally, as diversity, equity, and inclusion has become increasingly more important to me over the past few years, and especially in the last year, and has caused me to look at myself and work on myself, not to just stand by and watch, not to be apathetic or ignorant, but to become more aware, work more for this cause, and be a part of the change, knowing that this work is not a sprint, but it's a marathon. And over the past year, both my company, FCCI, and our chapter have started a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee or council, which it's exciting to see these changes and many other changes that are being made in this industry that are long overdue.
All right. The purpose of this event is to not only highlight the many paths in insurance that one could take, but to also highlight accomplished Black professionals in our industry. We are also raising money for Minnie's Food Pantry, which is a Black-owned food pantry in Plano, Texas. Please check the chat for the link to donate or text NAAIA CPCU Gives to 41444.
We're excited for our panel discussion today, and our panel today includes Dale Sharpe Jenkins, who is a principal owner of the Jenkins agency. Prior to starting her own agency, she worked as a claims adjuster and an underwriter. She's an experienced risk management and insurance professional, and also is an educator and trainer. She's a past chapter president of NAAIA DFW. She currently serves on several boards, including independent agents of Tarrant County and dispute resolution services of North Texas. Greg Fancis is the Vice President and Underwriting Center Manager at CNA Insurance. Greg has over 25 years of experience in the industry working in various roles in underwriting, including both individual contributor and management and leadership roles. Natalie Plumley is an Assistant Vice President and Claims Manager of North American Claims at Chubb Insurance. Prior to joining the insurance industry, Natalie worked at a pro se staff attorney for the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia and later on in Texas. She has 20+ years of experience in claims and litigation. Our final panelist is Marvin Kelly. Marvin is the Executive Vice President of the Texas Property and Casualty Insurance Guarantee Association. Marvin started his career in underwriting, first at Transamerican and then at Chubb, where he was the first Black underwriter in commercial lines of their Pittsburgh office. One of many firsts, Marvin is also the first Black president and now past president of the CPCU Society. With over 30 years of experience, Marvin has worked in many roles in underwriting, risk management, and now insurance guarantee. Marvin has also served our country as a major in the United States Army Reserve. Thank you.
Our moderator today is Tashara Parker. You have seen her on WFAA's Daybreak, where she works as a traffic reporter and news anchor. She covers traffic, breaking news, and inspirational stories throughout the week. And while we're on the topic of Black history, she is historically recognized as the first Black woman to anchor CBS affiliate KYTX primetime evening newscast in Tyler, Texas. Tashara holds a bachelor's degree in communications from Texas A&M University, as well as a master's degree in journalism from DePaul University in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you everyone for being a part of this great event. Tashara, please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Tony, Tiara. Appreciate you guys getting us started. I'm so happy to be here. I've been all up in the comment section, the chat section. Look, we got folks watching from all over the place. If you haven't told us already, let us know where you're watching from. I know I saw DeSoto. I see Tony from Chicago. Folks in here from all over the place. Somebody in here from Atlanta. Thank you for joining in. And of course, yes, Chicago. That's where I got my master's degree. So appreciate you guys for joining in. Sarasota, Florida, Pennsylvania. We got a lot of stuff to get through here this afternoon for us, Central Time this afternoon. So you guys heard we got some heavy hitters on here, like what I like to call heavy hitters. Y'all know. Y'all doing a thing, okay? So one of the questions that we're going to start with, and I want to make sure that I can get feedback from everyone. So if you can keep your answers straight to the point, I would appreciate it, because we got a whole lot of good stuff that we want to make sure that we hit. So my first question is actually for Marvin. Marvin, by the way, Marvin, you never put yourself on mute. Did you notice that? You was just like, I'm going to not be on mute at all.
I was on mute.
You weren't on mute. You never went on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought everybody wanted to hear me.
We always want to hear from you, Marvin. I'm teasing. All right. So here's your first question, Marvin. Can you explain your role as a part of the Texas Property and Casualty Insurance Association and the service it provides to the industry?
Sure. I'm the executive director of the Guarantee Association. It was a state agency, and I was brought over in 1992 under the then governor, Ann Richards, to privatize it. So I run it as a nonprofit association, and we're the most efficient guarantee fund in the country. We handle all insurance company insolvencies. So any company that goes out of business, we handle the claims for that particular company. We have all the members, anybody that operates in the state of Texas as a licensed insurer writer has to be a member of my association. And I'm an executive director, and I have a staff, and probably the most, the best and the most diverse guarantee fund in the entire country. Over 50% of my staff are minorities, Hispanic and African American.
Wow. 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 You got a lot of folks also in the comments section. I'm not sure if you can see the chat, but they're saying thank you for your service as well, Mr. Kelly. So thank you. This next question, I'm actually going to send it over to Dell and Marvin. I got another one to follow up with you on, but I'm going to go to Dell for this next one. Most Black insurance agents tend to go the direct route versus independent agent. Why did you choose to go the independent route?
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you, NAAIA, and thank you, CPCU, for inviting me to be a part of this panel. In '98, when I started my agency, I was previously had worked in the commercial insurance area for my entire career. So it was natural for me to choose the independent agency route. The direct writers, they are really good at home and auto, and that just wasn't my area. And the independent route allowed me to just reach a lot more markets and be available to help a diverse group of customers that would not fit into a direct market. So just because of my experience and because of the flexibility that comes with being independent, that's why I chose that direction.
All right, Ms. Jenkins, thank you. Greg and Natalie, by the way, I have quite a few questions and we're going to get to you. I promise you, but we got them in a certain order and I want to make sure I can get through all of them. So Marvin, this next question is back to you. As the first Black national president of CPCU Society, in what ways do you think the CPCU designation added value to your career?
Well, I have to clarify one thing. When I got into the industry, it was 1980 before a lot of you were born. So I became the first Black underwriter of Trans-American Insurance. And I figured at the time, if I was going to be in insurance, I needed to have the top designation in order to get the same respect as others that might not have that designation. So for me, it was just something I needed to have to validate myself when in the industry that I was in, where I was very unique. The areas that I served in, I was in Connecticut at the time. The areas that I served were Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire. And for anybody that knows, there's not a lot of diversity in Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire. So they were being exposed to a Black underwriter for the first time. So I figured I needed to have the top designation, and that CPCU was the most respected designation in the United States.
All right, Mr. Kelly, thank you. Our next topic that we're going to move on to is barriers to entry, getting into the field. And the first question, it's going to go to three of you, but anyone can chime in at any time, but I'm going to start with Greg. According to the 2018 NAAIA Marsh study, the journey of an African-American insurance professional, the biggest barriers into the insurance industry for African-Americans are lack of exposure and experience. So tell us, how were you introduced to the industry?
Yeah, I was fortunate, thank you, in that it was actually an agent, an independent agent who was followed me because of my tennis playing skills that got to know me and helped me get a couple of interviews. But you mentioned barriers. I came very, very close to not getting into the insurance industry at all because of some barriers. And what happened to me was he lined me up to interview with two different very large national property and casualty companies. And the first one, I interviewed with the hiring manager. He said there were 3 hurdles. I had to get past him in order to go to hurdle 2. Hurdle 2 was his boss. I had to get past him or I wouldn't get to hurdle 3. Hurdle 3 was all-day interviews in their home office. After that, I was going to find out if I got the job or not. Instead, after that, they introduced a 4th hurdle. They came back to me and said, we'd like you to talk to one of our Black employee benefits representatives because we don't have many in the country. And that's the position I was interviewing for. And so they introduced a 4th hurdle that would not have been introduced to somebody who wasn't Black. And then ultimately came back and that I feel bad for the guy, but that poor hiring manager with his tail between his legs just fumbled through telling me that I wasn't going to be offered the job and told me it was because I basically messed up in the second interview with his boss. But he had already told me I wouldn't even get to the home office interviews if I didn't clear that. So obviously there was another reason. And the message to me was, at that time, there is no room for Black people in insurance. Luckily, I was also interviewing with CNA at the time, and they offered me a job as an underwriting trainee, or I might have just been completely turned off from the industry. And I can't help but wonder how many other people have had experiences like that turn them off from this fantastic industry, which has careers that are just so broad in scope, whether you're in the medical profession, whether you're a lawyer, whether you like numbers, whether you like entrepreneurship. Like, there is so much career opportunity in the insurance industry that people just aren't aware of.
Wow. Dale, did you want to jump in? Exact same question. By the way, folks are in the chat saying, Dale, they want to be like you when they grow up. I'm just saying, passing the messages along, but same question for you.
Well, I would tell those folks, shoot higher. So, but I started in this industry because I was just looking for a job. and I got a job at an insurance agency in Columbus, Ohio. And I had a job as, you know, a CSR where the women were all the support staff and the men were the agents. The white males they were the agents. And when I saw the kind of money that the men were making, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to move, I want to make money. And so I think this is an industry that may allow me to do that. And because I was raised by a strong Black woman, my grandmother, who was the daughter of slaves, but she taught me and my sister that we could do anything that we put our minds to. And I believed her. And so I just took off trying to achieve certain things that I saw in front of me within this industry. And I didn't even think about the barriers, but it didn't take long once I got into the P&C world and got into the carrier world. It didn't take long for me to see that there were certainly some barriers to overcome. But I started guns loaded, just ready to begin. And like Greg was saying, it's unfortunate because I think a lot of young people do start, you know, ready to go. And then they get to the office and they go, oh, okay, maybe not quite what they told me it would be like from home. So yeah, there have been barriers, but that's why I started. I started in this industry because I saw it as a way to build income for me and for my family. So.
Yeah. And a lot of folks, by the way, agreeing with you guys, Greg, a lot of folks saying, you know, they've experienced something very similar. They can relate to what you mentioned, saying it's not an anomaly. So look, that's why we're having panels like this, right, to discuss these things and to figure out ways that we can try to make sure that these situations don't occur, or at the very least don't occur as often. Marvin, did you want to weigh in about how you got into the business and, you know, the lack of exposure and experience that they mentioned from that study? How were you introduced?
See, I was more ignorant than most. So it was 1980. I actually have an insurance degree. We were the first set of insurance graduates from the University of Hartford. And my master's is in risk management and insurance. So I didn't realize there was no diversity. All I was looking for was a job. And since I had a degree and I was in Hartford, Connecticut, that was the insurance capital of the country. So while I was in school, I realized I could guarantee myself a job once I got into the insurance industry with an insurance degree, because that was unique. So I came in the door not realizing that there weren't a lot of minorities involved in insurance. And when I got in there, my first 5 years, I was just happy to have a job. I was studying for my CPCU and different designations. And it didn't really bother me until the senior underwriter, Jim McLaughlin, who taught me how to be an underwriter, came to me and said, why are you still here? You think they're going to promote you? Do you see anybody who looks like you? The only other Black professional in that organization at the time, there weren't any. There were clerical people. And at that time, that's what made me kind of realize, wow, they're not going to make me a supervisor here. So I realized I had to leave the company in order to get the same opportunity.
So Marvin, obviously that person you just mentioned was someone you could lean on and obviously offered you some good advice to get you on up out of there. What is the importance though of establishing networks?
That's really important. That's why I got involved with CPCU, because I realized, you know, I couldn't move up in this industry without having professional relationships with others. That also provided me opportunities when you hit the glass ceiling, which you will if you stay in the industry for a period of time. You learn as much as you can at one company. You get the skill set, and if they don't promote you, you just go somewhere else. You take your skill set somewhere else. And that's what got me from Transamerica to Chubb & Son, because Chubb, they didn't have marketing people. So I was able to learn marketing. I also went back to Pittsburgh, where I was born and raised, to work at Chubb & Son and became the first Black commercial lines underwriter at Chubb & Son, with only 2 other Black professionals in reinsurance and another gentleman, personal lines. So networking is important if you're going to stay in the industry and move up in the industry and get other opportunities, because other people will see you and see your talents.
Okay. All right, Marvin. Thank you. Of course, folks weighing in chat, Neoshi saying the same theme continues even today. While we have progressed, we continue to be underrepresented. Obviously, again, the reason why it's so very important to have these conversations. All right, so our next section is all about mentorship and sponsorship. I do want to remind you guys that a component of today is donating some of the proceeds to Minnie's Food Pantry. So we did drop a link in the chat. I believe we can drop that link again if we get a chance in the chat to let folks know how they can support Minnie's Food Pantry as part of what we're doing here today. Last thing, a reminder, if you want to drop a question in, because we do have a question and answer segment towards the end of our discussion today, let us know. Drop a question, not in the chat, in the question and answer section so that we can keep up with it. And I'll be sure to go over there and try to check those as we get towards the end. So again, the next section, all about mentorship, sponsorship, all that good stuff. Natalie, we're about to bring you on in here. So the first one is, what are the benefits to insurance industry organizations of establishing highly effective mentoring programs that enable as well as foster the most inclusive corporate cultures?
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today. I have a mantra that I subscribe to, and it's just remember people. And I think that mentorships are a great way to do that. Over the last several years at my company, I have had the opportunity to create, implement, and develop mentorships for multicultural individuals as well as coaching circles. And from those experiences, I feel like mentorships help diverse employees build formal relationships. And those are relationships that they might not otherwise have an opportunity to develop. They allow those employees to connect with others across teams, experiences, and hierarchy. And so that allows the mentors and the mentees to share experiences and perspectives, and it allows for greater empathy and understanding across an organization. I also feel like it is powerful because it allows diverse professionals to identify the skills that they need to advance their careers and to gain that knowledge. And so as a result of targeted mentorships, leadership should look more diverse because of programs like that. They help diverse individuals have career paths.
So mentorship is obviously one option, one path, right, to kind of help along those lines when it comes to being promoted and just learning more. What other actions do you feel like employers can take to professionally develop and promote their diverse talent from within to management and even C-suite roles? Dare I say it? Yes. What other actions do you think employers can take?
So I think it starts with getting diverse employees in the door. You have to look for top talent. And in order to do that, you have to make your recruitment process accessible to everyone. So you have to post on diverse job boards. You have to maybe go to HBCUs or companies that have large diverse student populations. Once you get them in the door, you really have to retain them. And so you have to make sure that you are managing diverse talent, that you're giving them opportunities to shine, that there are career maps or succession plans in place. And those maps and plans have to be tailored to the individuals because you have to allow for each employee to be authentic so that they can learn to contribute in the manner that they can, allow their skills to shine, and that will in turn help them to climb the corporate ladder.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Look, this isn't a direct question, but I'm kind of gonna go off my little script here. Amber posted in the chat, and this is for anyone who wants to chime in on our panel today. Amber said, "I wish I had a female mentor to pull me up or alongside them in management." It's going off of what you just mentioned, Natalie. But what feedback do you have for someone who are in these roles, who are looking for someone to mentor them? Are there any other opportunities or any other ways that they can find individuals to mentor them? I know joining these organizations will be one, right? But what else? What else? Anything else?
I'm going to say to be bold. There have been times in my career where I have, from a distance, looked at someone who was performing well or had a certain skill set that I wanted, and I had to step outside of my comfort zone and just approach them to ask. I have never had anyone tell me, no, I'm not going to mentor you. I'm not going to spend time with you. And so really be bold.
Okay. All right, our next section, thank you, Natalie. Our next section, all about race in the workplace. And I feel like we're going to have a lot of folks chiming in the chat. Please, please, please continue to chime in the chat if you have questions. I see that we have a few questions already posted, but post them in the Q&A section because we would love to get to those during our Q&A portion of this conversation. So Greg, this is going to you. Again, this is about race in the workplace. 2020 was a heavy year for Black Americans. How did you navigate? Let me pause. 2021 turning out to be a heavy year too, because it's just been rough. But 2020, we know why it was certainly a heavy year for Black Americans. How did you navigate work discussions about societal issues and the impact it had on the working environment? We're going to start with Greg.
Thank you. I leaned into the conversations, and what I would say is the better organizations opened up an avenue for those conversations to be had. I think the intro said something about 25 years. I've actually been in the industry for a little over 30 years. And 2020 was the first time, I've been at 3 carriers over those 30 years, that the company opened the door to have honest, frank, open conversations specifically about race, even moved beyond just saying diversity, talking specifically about race head on. I got to participate in a panel discussion similar to this within our organization, where a number of Black employees in the organization, basically, it was like we were sitting around a table having an open conversation and a dialogue, with the moderator. And that allowed different leaders in the organization, people leaders, to then have conversations with their teams. And so we've really continued and really taken a new path in this journey around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And like I said, I think all the better companies are doing that.
Yeah, and I'll just add this, not that you guys put me on here for my 2 cents. Thank you for that, Greg. I'll just say, though, I hope that we continue to have these conversations, because it's real nice while things are, while stuff hitting the fan, right, that folks want to start having these conversations. I just hope that it continues and actually leads to some actual change. Dale, I'd love for you to weigh in on that exact same question with everything that happened in 2020. How did you address those issues in the working environment?
Well, my approach, first of all, I think the conversations are extremely important, and they're important that we continue them, like you said, beyond this period of time where it seems so popular to have these conversations. What we don't want to just have this be the topic of the day, and then later on, we just go back to business as usual. One thing that I did was develop a course called The Ethics of Diversity and Inclusion. And I presented that class to the Texas Department of Insurance for approval for ethics credit. And I've been teaching that course because what I see as very important that we consider and look at this topic of diversity and inclusion as an ethical matter, and not merely as a matter of profit and numbers and things of that nature. If we only look at it as something that is great as long as we can see the financial benefit of having a diverse workforce, once the numbers go down, then what happens? And the whole idea of attaching numbers to people and equality, it troubles me a little bit. So for my input is just to push forward the fact that diversity and inclusion is an ethical matter, and companies need to include it as a part of their corporate ethics before they start looking at it as a part of their corporate bottom line. And so that was my contribution, if you will, small as it, but just to have that class there so that organizations, companies can have a place to continue the conversation and to look at this as an ethical matter, more so than just numbers, dollars and cents.
Big time. While you were speaking, Del, thank you for that. I appreciate it. While you were speaking, Stephanie posted in the chat, I was taught not to have these type of discussions in the work environment. have
Mhm.
things change. So Greg, maybe you or Dale could jump in on this one, because Greg, you said 2020 was the first time you felt like we opened up and we were able to start having those conversations. I haven't been in the workforce that long, but I feel the same way about 2020. We were finally able to start talking about it and talking about it direct, right? Not trying to sugarcoat everything in those conversations. But to Stephanie's point, she said she was taught not to have those type of discussions at work. Anybody want to weigh in on that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead, Greg.
It's been a huge shift. Our CEO has been very vocal about it, and our human resources leaders have been encouraging and helping our people leaders in the organization to have these conversations intentionally. And it's been a big change. It's been ongoing discussions at all levels across the organization, including our Diversity and Inclusion Council. And it's the conversations are needed, but it's also leading to measurable actions. And that's the continuation of the conversations.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say that, back in the day, you didn't have these conversations. You just did not. As a matter of fact, you went to work, and if anything, you tried to not look different. You tried to blend in and be just the same as everyone else. And conversations like this were not welcome in the workplace. And even at home, you were counseled by those in your home. You don't go to work talking about stuff like this. And so, yeah, Stephanie, that's true. This is different. And I still think that there are people that are probably still cautious about having certain conversations and being completely honest about their conversations in the workplace. That's the great thing about having my own business. I can talk about what I want. So I can say whatever I want to say, and nobody's going to get on my case. But I spent many years working in that environment where that wasn't the case. But I do think it's good to continue to have these conversations in the workplace, because I think the workplace gives us it's a great opportunity for us to, within corporate America, within our industry, it's a great environment for us to make change. Because we have a lot of things in place that are necessary. We have joint goals, we have joint direction because we all work together. We have personal relationships with people that look like us and don't look like us. So the work environment is a great environment for us to really push forward true diversity and inclusion if we use it in that way. So
Now, briefly, can you tell folks where they can get that course? A lot of folks asking about it in the chat.
Oh, well, you can go to TDI's website, and if you're looking up ethics courses, you'll see my course there, the Ethics of Diversity and Inclusion, or you can email me, dale@thejenkinsagencyinc.com, and I'd be happy to get in touch with you and talk to you about the class.
Okay, thank you for
I
that.
have one comment in reference to that.
Oh yeah, Marvin, it was coming right at you. Go ahead.
Hey, I have always talked about that. I've never stopped talking about that because I was unique in this industry. So not only talking about it, I've been progressive in getting going to HBCUs. I started 2 insurance programs, one here in Austin, Texas at Houston-Tillotson, which is one of the oldest Black HBCUs in the country. I started a program at Texas Southern. When I was president, my theme was embracing change. It was not only about diversity, but it was bringing in other aspects, and it was more than just Black and white and brown. It was LGBTQ as well, which was very controversial at the time that I started talking about it, because they were exposed to some of the same things that we were doing. So I've never stopped talking about it to this day. Gets me in trouble sometimes, but I'm going to continue to talk about it because it's important, and it's not going to change until people put money into it. And you get on the boards where decisions are made, or you get to the table where you're involved in making those decisions as to who's hired, who's promoted, So unlike everybody else, over these past 40 years, it's been a theme of mine regardless of where I've been. The organization that I work for, we bring those kind of conversations inside. I want to know what the Hispanics and the Mexicans are facing and what their issues are, as well as African Americans. because Texas is majority minority now. There's more Hispanics here than African Americans. So that's just as important to me. So I've always had those conversations.
Right. I feel like the term minority gets used not in the right way, because the folks that you're saying are the minority is the majority in Texas for sure. And Marvin, I love that. So you basically just told us you've been walking it like you're talking for the last 40 years or so. So thank you, because now I feel like it is a popular, quote unquote, conversation to have, but it hasn't always been popular in many, many circles. So thank you for that. A lot of folks in the comments, Michelle saying this partnership CPCU with NAAIA is a great statement of solidarity for the industry. A lot of folks agreeing with Michelle on that. So thank you, you guys. Keep commenting. We're going to try to move through some more of our questions. So now we're at the point where it's we need to take some action. Natalie, we're going to start with you on this one. You're involved in employee resource groups with your company. What value do you think it brings to the company and the employees?
So I am on the board of the Multicultural Employees Resource Group at my company. And I think that ERGs are important because it's a way for an organization to show that its mission values and celebrates diversity and inclusion. These ERGs create a support network and a sense of belonging for different groups of diverse talent. Another thing about the ERGs, it is another way of helping diverse talent grow. So if you belong to an ERG, you may be afforded an opportunity to take on a leadership role. You might not have the opportunity to show that in your current role. And so you're able to develop those skills. You can also find someone to informally mentor you as a part of being a member of that ERG. So you're growing and the person who is doing the mentoring is growing. And so that helps you both on a trajectory towards a leadership position. It also, again, allows you to learn more about the organization because when you're meeting in the ERGs, you're meeting with people who may be in different business units and different departments. So you're learning more about the organization, other opportunities that might be available to you. So they're very beneficial.
Yeah. Greg, thank you, Natalie. Greg, same question to you, being a part of ERG. How important is that? And do you encourage folks to obviously be a part of those as well?
Definitely encourage folks to be a part of them, take advantage of it. It's a great space for people to come together, advocate for things. We just launched our newest one at CNA, and I was so happy to see it. It's called AVID, which is Advocacy for Visible and Invisible Disabilities. So it's really getting at especially the mental health issue, which is such a crisis across the country and the globe, and creating a platform for that. So yes, I'm a big proponent of ERGs.
Del, this one is for you. Thank you, Greg. Many great candidates are often overlooked due to bias within the recruiting process and misunderstanding of an competitive edge. How does this show up as a problem within your industry?
Okay. Well, one of the highlights of my career is the time I spent 4.5 years as a full-time lecturer at UNT in their risk management and insurance program. And really, really enjoyed it. I'd still be there if I had the energy to keep up with the students, but found out that I needed to put that aside for a minute. But when I took that position, I learned two important things about our industry. One thing I learned is that we are a generous industry. Our industry gives so much money, time, talent toward that pool of students. We are at UNT within the finance department. We were the envy of the finance, accounting, and all the other ones because our industry poured so much back into the students, and it made me very proud to be a part of that. The other thing that I learned about our industry that was not so great was that this whole idea of competitive edge, of marginalization, of starting these boundaries starts at the university. Our industry does something to the university students where they say, hey, we want your best and your brightest. And then there becomes a big competition to get the best and the brightest out there Well, the best and the brightest in the minds of so many looked a certain way. They had a certain history, which included, parents that had gone to college. They had a GPA that was well over 3.5. Many of them were male. Many of them, that was the ideal student that our industry came and said, that's what we're looking for. And what I realized right away was that our industry is missing out on other students. First of all, it doesn't take a 3.8 or 4.0 to do well in this industry. So we were missing another group of students that maybe were first generation to go to college. Maybe they had a 3.0 or maybe a 3.2. And we weren't really pulling those students in. And so I think that's where a lot of this, some of the problems we have really start at the university level, where all of a sudden we right off the bat, we're divided, and we have certain students getting the competitive edge and certain students that are not. And so that's why when NAAIA or other organizations promote different competitions or different challenges or scholarships for other students, that is so important because there's a whole wide range of students that deserve to be a part of this industry, that need to hear about the opportunities that all of us have shared. And we don't do a good job, and we haven't in the past done a good job of making it inclusive, even at the university level. And so what that does also is when they get to work, they've already got a competitive edge.
Right, that mindset is already there.
It's the mindset's there. It started in college. They've already got that competitive edge. And what it also does is it takes this opportunity away from students that should and would do very well within our industry. So I think that we need to look at how we embrace students coming into our industry and who we recruit for and broaden that. So
how do we do that though, Dale? So this portion of the conversation is all about taking action. We've set up the problem and we see what needs to be done. How do we dig in and get to these schools? We got a lot of mean green in here, by the way. They shouting you out in the chat section saying they remember you being there. So cool. Thank y'all for being here. Appreciate that. But look, man, how anybody can jump into how do we move forward so that we can have an impact, as one person put it, on Black wealth? How do we do that?
I think one of the things you have to do is most HBCUs have not been introduced to insurance as a career. When you say insurance, they think sales, they think marketing. I don't want to sell, I don't want to market. There are so many opportunities. When I go to colleges, I talk about underwriting. I was a risk manager for the city of Beaumont, city of Austin, one of the most exciting jobs I've ever had. Insurance is not sexy, but insurance is stable. It provides a great future, but people have to know exactly what it is. And when you introduce these opportunities, our CPCU chapter, for example, taught at the HBCU. So our chapter went there and taught. We also provided scholarships for individuals so that they could participate in the process and talk to them about these designations so they would have credibility when they came into the industry. So I think one of the things is just introducing people to insurance as a career and helping them understand what's available.
I will say too, Marvin, again, this is someone who is outside of your industry. I do my research on organizations prior to taking on opportunities like this. And I was surprised, even in my conversation with Tiara Morris, when she mentioned how many different career types were available within the insurance industry. So I think you're very much correct. You need to, some kind of way, we need to figure out a way to relay the message and let folks know that this is a stable business. Think about it. You guys really, I don't think you ever went down because folks always need some type of insurance somewhere. So I think that's very, very important. So we're just about out of time for this portion of the conversation. We got a lot of questions in. The first one I think is very simple. And this is from Amber. She says, does Minnie's Food Pantry serve all of North Texas residents outside of Plano? I believe that's a yes, that anyone could get support from Minnie's. But if anyone wants to come off mute and answer that question, Tony or Tiara, and let us know, you guys can definitely do that, or just type it in the chat so we can get through the next question. Michelle has a question here, and this is for anyone who wants to take it. Do you think employee resource groups are effective in increasing minority presence in company? Add any value? That's from Michelle.
I would say yes. If I am looking for a new job and I'm looking at a corporation, one of the ways that I can tell what their commitment is to diversity and inclusion is looking at its internal structure. And so if I see a company that has ERGs, I do know that it's committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it makes it a little easier for me to make the decision to start my career or to continue my career there. So yes, I do believe that it's important in recruiting.
This question is from, thank you, Natalie, from Charleston Reed. I'm currently in commercial GL, and is that GL and I handled 90% litigation at a large employer. I would like to start my own agency and or go IA. How do I begin that search? What steps do I take? Do I become independent and take claims on my own? That's from Charleston.
Well, Charleston, you want to become an independent insurance agent. The most important thing you're going to need is something to sell. So you're going to have to be able to contract with standard markets. So you may want to start looking at where you may have relationships right now with the standard markets, and start talking to them, people that you can trust about what you're thinking about doing, and to see if you can find a company that might be willing to give you a contract. You can't be competitive without the standard market as an independent agent. So I would look very closely at that. The other thing you can do is you can buy an agency. It's a good way to get started. If you can find a small agency that you can purchase, that's a good way to break into the business as well, because you buy their contracts.
Okay. This is from Anonymous. How are you able to eliminate bias in the mentor-mentee decision process? Natalie, I'm looking at you. Do you use an automated process for selection or something more engaging? I feel like you gave us a lot of insight on the mentorship kind of situation. Natalie, can you answer that one for us?
So I can just speak to my personal experience. When I was helping to create the mentorship program, we tried to look at each individual. So if I had someone who I had in mind to mentor someone, I wanted to pair them up with someone where I knew that they could enhance that mentee's experience. And so it was a personal one-on-one decision. We went through all of the mentor applications, all of the mentee applications, and we tried to make the best fit. I think that bias, though, is inherent. So in terms of managing it, the only thing that we can do is be aware that we have it and try to compensate for it.
All right, Natalie, thank you. This next question is for you, Mr. Kelly. And I'm reading from the individual that posted it. So first, you all have said some powerful and truthful words, but Marvin, being the first Black exposure to agents as their underwriter at the time, I can understand the emotions being an underwriter in Missouri at one point. They call Black people colored people. Tough pill to swallow because I had to represent the company. So feelings like guilt and shame for being quiet about it. First part of the question, how did you balance your professionalism and self-worth at the time?
Well, to me, since, again, when I went into it, I didn't realize how unique the situation was. All I was looking to do was to learn an expertise. I wanted to be an underwriter, so I knew specifically what that was. And I wanted to be a casualty underwriter because I wanted to work with contracts and learn about contracts. So I was so focused on how to make myself better, I never got into what was around me. And when I started underwriting, most of the agents that I worked for and I represented, they never met me. So they would talk to me on the phone. And it wasn't until about a year later that I would go to Vermont or Maine and New Hampshire. And what was unique about that experience is they were asking me all the questions, all the agents. And my boss finally caught on because it was so unique for them to see a Black underwriter. So they were calling their friends saying, come see this Black guy that knows all this about insurance. So I think I was so ignorant to the fact that I was unique at the time. And like anything else, it was my first job. I was so focused on making money. And then I was doing the reserves with the military. I didn't care about those other things. I just was trying to learn my craft and be the best that I could be at that.
Wow. Thank you, Marvin. This next question is from Anthony Johnson. You guys know we got a lot of folks in here that are looking to break into this industry. Anthony says, in the DFW market, are there any jobs for experienced professionals without insurance knowledge or experience? If so, can you provide some direction on where to even start the process?
Well, I can't speak for I don't know what jobs are out there, but I do think that there are many other professions that have transferable skills that will do well within our industry. And so if you're looking for, I don't know what area you want to go into, if you're looking at claims, if you have skills in the area of dealing with people, dealing with crisis, dealing with catastrophes, or conflict resolution, those type of skills would transfer. If you are looking at underwriting, or if your math skills. So I would set your resume up to highlight the skills that you feel will transfer from what you're currently doing into the industry. And then go ahead and start taking some classes on your own and building up on that area. You don't have to have a job in the insurance industry to start your CPCU or to do a CIC or start taking some classes. So you can start building up in that area as well, and joining some organizations that might have may have insight into openings.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Also, folks are in the comments as a follow-up to that question. Go to statefarm.com, look at our postings. Malcolm saying prior law enforcement and military as well. I'm sorry, prior law enforcement and military always sought for special investigative units within insurance carriers. And then Azure, and again, get in a chat and see what they're saying in the chat. Azure says you can connect with them on LinkedIn, and they will happily connect you to some recruiters. So boom, there you go. All right. Glenda has a question. She says, are there any obstacles that someone older may experience just starting in the industry?
Well, I'm older, so I know. I think you will run into issues because everybody's looking for replacing people. I'm going through transition right now with my own organization. So we're looking for young people that we can bring along. I think if you're older, you're almost at a disadvantage because you don't, and not because you're don't have the expertise. It's the fact that you don't have the time frame for a company that's looking long term. So I think you're going to run into issues if you're older looking for any opportunity in any type of business.
Yeah, they're trying to get rid of us boomers. They're trying to get us boomers out of there. They're not trying to recruit more.
Michelle agreeing with y'all. She's saying, look, age discrimination is a real thing. So I like that you kept it straightforward, Marvin and Dale. I 100% hear you for sure. We've seen it happen. Jessica saying millennials are tired too. Sharita has a question for us. Do any of you, and let's keep this one brief. We have 4 minutes left, and I want to make sure I try to get through these last 4 questions. Sharita Hardy, do any of you have that one thing that made a big difference in your career, whether it was positive or negative?
I think for me, it was selecting, your mentor doesn't necessarily have to look like you, be your same race, be your same religion. I identified mentors for myself. When I left the insurance industry and I went into the risk management area, I interviewed with another African-American man that I was so impressed with. I wanted to work for him because he had a skill set that I needed. So I've always, as I switched industries or going into different areas, I found people that had skill sets that I admired, and I tried to hook up with them and ask them, not even ask them to be my mentor. It kind of just would happen because I made sure I was in their presence, and based on my skill set, they identified I had a skill set that they could utilize as well. So they kind of took me under their arms And that's how I learned. That was beneficial for me.
Nice, nice, nice. Hey, you guys, don't forget portions of the proceeds from here going to Minnie's Food Pantry. So if the folks behind the scene that's helping us out doing all the heavy lifting, if you can post that link one more time in the chat section, because the chat is popping, okay? A lot of resources, by the way, being posted in the chat. So make sure you guys check it out. Those of you who asked about jobs and all of that good stuff, folks saying, hey, reach out to me. I'm going to connect you with somebody. So please check the chat for me. All right, so this question, I'm not sure who can take this one, but it's a very good one. How do we obtain data? This is from Anonymous, by the way. How do we obtain data information from HR, which protects and shields data information, numbers of minorities, gender, salary difference, so that we know we are making progress?
I don't know that you can get that information
Right.
from HR, but there are organizations that conduct studies and gather data, like the McKinsey Group and others, where you can also get that data from the what is it? It's a government website that collects census data. They also give you data on payrolls and how much people are making and what is the majority mix of employees and things like that by industry. So, but I don't know that you can go to your HR and get that information.
You can't just
No.
say, can I have the numbers, Dale? We
I
can't do
don't
it that
think
way.
so.
Okay, I ain't think it worked that way. But look, if you
Yeah.
can somehow get that information, Dale, I'm not sure how you can pass it along to the organizations, and maybe they can share that link that you were talking about if you're able to figure that government organization link out. Last question here, y'all. We way over time, but just hold on. Last question, Greg. They wanted to make sure I got this one for you. This is from Derek Williams. Greg was a division director, and I was his UW manager. We made a formidable team, but personally felt the visibility was on us. Is that true? Did you want to respond to that? That's from Derek. Did you feel like you guys were being watched, so to speak, is what I'm taking from it?
Yeah, so that was yes, Derek and I are both Black men, and we were leaders of an organization, of a piece of an organization at a different company, and yes, I mean, but that's true. I mean, that's the Black experience in America, right? Is that notion of feeling like you are under a microscope and you have to do not just as good, but better than all the time, constantly proving yourself, et cetera. I mean, that's a reality.
Yep. Good stuff, Greg. We're going to leave it at that. We ain't got to dig into it no more. Tiara, Tony coming on back on here. Everyone in the chat saying they just love the information that all of our lovely panelists delivered here. So thank you for having me, Tiara and Tony. I will let you guys take it away. And thank you to all the amazing panelists and everyone who joined in from all across the country up in this thing. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Tara.
Tashara. Thank you, everyone. I feel like I have to perk up to match your energy level, but let me say that was a fantastic panel discussion. Thank you, Tashara, for moderating our panel. Thank you to all of our panelists for being a part of this conversation. So remember, you can donate to Minnie's Food Pantry by texting NAAIA CPCU Gives to 41444. And to learn more about NAAIA, please visit www.naia.org. Tony?
Thank you, Tiara. And thanks everyone for joining. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you, Tashara. That was amazing. That was just a great conversation. I hope everyone enjoyed that. And thank you on behalf of the Dallas CPCU Society. And if you'd like to learn more about the Dallas CPCU Society, go to dallas.cpcusociety.org. I'll throw that in the chat as well. And I hope this conversation just continues and that our industry just continues to grow and do a better job of this. So appreciate everyone for their time and today. This was great.
And it starts with all y'all lovely folks, because y'all are doing a great job. Hey, before y'all end this, can y'all leave that discussion, the chat room up for like 2 minutes? I know we're about to end it, but 2 minutes. And I say that because, man, it was so many good resources. And I feel like folks were trying to like listen to the conversation. So maybe they didn't get all the resources, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. So check it out, please. Like give them like 1 minute here. 1 minute, 1 minute.
All right, y'all grab those links.
But thank y'all so much. I know it's awkward just sitting here looking at each other. Thank y'all again for having me. I hope y'all learned something. I learned a a lot listening in. I tried to do my research as much as I could beforehand, but yeah, no, it was great just to hear all of you guys. And what's unfortunate is that a lot of the situations that you guys have mentioned happen in many industries. And so hopefully we can just start to do the legwork and make it happen. All right, I'm done eating up time. That's all I was doing.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Everyone
Bye,
have a good
everybody.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Bye-bye.